the USA Pavilion at Dubai Expo 2020. My name is Kathryn Johnson. We've met and just really excited to have you all come today to celebrate March 8th, 2022 is the UN International Day for Women. And so we're here today not only to celebrate women, but to celebrate women with disabilities and the empowerment of women and women with disabilities. And so you all are friends of the family of women with disabilities, and we want to talk today about advocacy and the role of advocacy in empowering women. So I want to give you each an opportunity to introduce yourself, and then we'll start with our first topic. Darren, could you go first, please?
Yes, I'm Darine Aboulain. I'm the Accessibility Outreach Manager in the Students Accessibility Services Department at Zayed University. My job is to work on community initiatives and working with external stakeholders to empower students with determination, students with disabilities, and people with disabilities in the UAE.
Great, thank you. Thanks for coming. Fatma?
My name is Fatma Qasimi. I am the Director of Student Accessibility Services at Zayed University. We accommodate students with determination, and we give them all the support services they need at the university. We also help them later on with their employment. And mostly, as we're talking about women, we serve more women students, women with disabilities than men.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming all the way to Expo. Shani?
Hi, I'm Shani Danda, a disability activist and inclusion specialist in the UK. I'm also a social entrepreneur. I also work to help reduce the extra costs that many disabled people face, and a broadcaster as well.
Great. Thanks for coming all the way to Dubai. And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Benson. I am the program lead and lecturer on our Inclusion and Special Education Needs program at the University of Birmingham at our brand new Dubai campus. So we work training new teachers to become more inclusive in their classrooms here in Dubai and beyond, because we know Dubai is a global city.
So I have to admit, I had never been to Dubai before Expo. And Expo, I'm realizing, really has the power to leverage the networking and bringing people together. But I think individuals with disabilities have not had an opportunity to really be at that table of discussions at Expos. And so we're starting a new chapter. We're starting a new legacy for Expos. We hope that Minnesota gets the bid for 2027. I welcome you all to come to Minnesota for a follow-up square table discussion. And having the opportunity, though, to really learn about disabilities and disability policy in this region has been eye-opening for me. And I think more people would be interested in learning more about what is the status of special education and people with disabilities. So if you could share about current disability and what's happening, disability policy and what's happening within the UAE. Could you share?
Sure. In the UAE, there are one of the amazing things that you can find, that's when you compare to other countries, that there is a federal law that was in 2006, which basically protects the rights of people with disabilities across the UAE and kind of commit all the relevant entities to provide services, quality services for people of determination. We say here people of determination for people with disabilities. I think you know that by now. Yes, and me too. When I first also joined the Zayed University, I was so impressed and so empowered myself just to use the term. So having a federal law, it actually makes it easier for entities like ourselves in terms of as universities or even other entities to actually advocate for the rights of people with disabilities and kind of encourage families, encourage the community, and encourage stakeholders to take an active role in kind of fulfilling these priorities. Also, there's different policy and strategies at the national level. There's the Abu Dhabi strategy, the comprehensive strategy for people with determination, and there's one policy that Dubai also worked on as well. Yes, yeah, the KHD one, which basically gives a very enabling and rich environment that we can actually go with full force when it comes to campaigning and providing quality advocacy activities and interventions that will tackle and address the needs of people with disabilities in the country.
Excellent.
I think what's so exciting about the UAE, having worked in other places in the Middle East, is that often policies are enacted, like these federal policies, and they sit on the books and they just kind of sit there, right? Like they're there, but nobody's advocating or enforcing them. And
Right.
here, from a grade school perspective, we see the KHDA going in and doing school inspections to make sure they're living up to those inclusive values. We see Abu Dhabi schools, their new focus is on inclusion. And so it's not just lip service here in the UAE. They really are taking it seriously. And obviously you all will speak to the higher education, but I think it's so inspiring to work in some of the schools here and see that the laws and the policies mean something on the ground to the teachers who are teaching the students with disabilities here
And
as well.
also, most of all, what I would like to say, being an Emirati,
Yes.
I mean, our leadership here, they really encourage inclusion and inclusivity, and they empower people, and that's how we got the name of like people of determination. Because Sheikh Mohammed, he designated this title for people with disabilities, that he sees them, they are more powerful and they achieve a lot. So yani, the title disability really does not really fit with them. It's more like encouraging and more powerful to give the title people of determination.
Yeah.
So
You see
we're
that
proud
the
of
city
that.
over,
Yeah.
right?
We glad, and I saw that in the students. I mean, when they heard the name, the new title, they were so excited. They
Wow.
wanted to do more and
Yeah.
more, and they were telling me, and we feel now, like we are empowered,
Yeah.
and the leadership are behind us, so it's really great.
Well, I feel empowered to come in here as a tourist and somebody that doesn't live in this country. I love going around saying I need to access a service for people of determination.
Yeah,
Language really matters.
of course.
And I think for such a young city that Dubai is, you've made amazing strides, in disability inclusion.
And how about accessibility then for individuals here? When we talk about advocacy, that includes getting places and having access to be able to have a voice to advocate. How is that in Dubai?
Actually, in Dubai, there's law. The municipality now, any building, any new building, they have to have everything accessible, from lifts, from ramps, from everything. And they were also looking into older buildings and trying. I remember there was a task force, which someone I knew he was in it, and they were going around all buildings, and if they receive any call, like myself, even the RTA, if you call for any place that you see not fit or not accessible, straight away you give them a week or so and it's done, and they call you back and tell you is it okay, is it done, and it's amazing how everybody here in Dubai and the UAE as a whole working together to make like the city accessible, especially before Expo. There was people were running to do everything at the right time, even though we started a while earlier, but everything was really ready by the time Expo came.
And it's not just buildings, is it? It's,
Yes.
You go down to the beaches,
Exactly.
you go down to Clay
Exactly.
Beach, and my grandmother was a wheelchair user, and I always think, gosh, she would have loved Dubai, because she loved the beaches, but we could never get to them.
Yes.
But here we've got, there's the beaches are
Yeah,
accessible.
even in the like parks in Dubai, especially the beach parks, they have accessible wheelchairs to go into the water,
Yeah.
which is really great. Like anybody can go and get one of these. Even like older people who are maybe not able to walk, but it's amazing, and everything is so inclusive.
And I think that's why Dubai is a very popular choice for disabled travellers and tourists.
Yes.
Because there is that emphasis, on accessibility. All my friends come here too on holiday.
A lot from the UK, very much so. I don't think as many people from the United States, so we're hoping in the
Yeah,
future
hopefully,
more.
you're a little bit far.
Long
With the
journey.
direct flights, everything was going to be great.
Right. But really, another part of the conversation is focused on the SDGs and being here together, having this conversation. SDG 17, the power of networking. And I hope that really we can build lasting, sustainable partnerships between our universities, with St. Cloud State and Zayed, University of Birmingham, Dubai as your campus title, and really work to advocate for more students, especially in the area of teaching and young women having employment opportunities. The purpose of education is, the end goal is for employment, right? So we know for women and young girls with disabilities, the power of education really can help advance their rights. We're talking about SDG 17 and networking, but we're also focused on SDG 5, especially thinking about the UN International Day for Women that we're celebrating. And so as we think about education, we want to start with the power of inclusive education and the movement and momentum that's happening in Dubai and the UAE, actually in the whole Middle East region. And you really have a lot of expertise with that, Sarah, if you could share.
I think it's just so exciting. Within the region generally, we talk about the UAE, it's a shining example of what can happen around here. But within the region, we see all countries following the lead. I know that King Abdullah in Jordan recently had a long address about inclusive education. But when we think about who is most likely to be excluded from education, it's young women. And then if we think about the intersectionality of women and disability, it's women with disabilities or girls with disabilities. And so if we think about disrupting our education system, and inclusive education really is the disrupting factor, because we're asking people to think about who really should hold the power, and it should be women and girls. And I think it's so exciting to see the inclusive framework here in Dubai, making sure that all of our students with disabilities, all of our students with determination have access to our schools. And it's really this forward-looking idea of everybody should be included in our schools, because then we can all learn from each other. Having people go to school together creates that, I think you said it, Kathryn, a community of inclusivity, so that when they get to higher education, when they get to the workplace, people are ready, and it's not strange to see somebody with a disability in your community. It's just part of being a human. It's just a natural difference in the world, right? And I think that's the power of inclusive education, is that we can really understand that difference is normal.
Right. When we start with inclusive education, we create an inclusive society.
Yeah.
And so could you share, Zayed University, the amazing work you're doing?
For us, really, it's great because Zayed University also, we have the women campus in Zayed University has the majority of students. So, and since 2010, we started providing services to people or students with disabilities. So, the aim of that was to give them equal education opportunities like anybody else. So the women who are disabled or with disabilities, they have the right to be educated just like anybody else. And education is empowering. So starting this department in Zayed University, we made sure that they have everything, all the resources are accessible for all the students, including students with disabilities, specifically for women, as I said, and also independence. One of the aims that we were aiming for, because also independence empower people, and a lot of students, when they come to us, especially women, they are very shy. They don't want to, especially with disabilities, they have some kind of, they're vulnerable. They don't want to be with so many people, especially the university life is totally different than school life. So transitioning from schools to university, sometimes that gap, we try to fill it up for them. We train them on assistive technology. We give them a lot of sessions, give them independence, try to include them, even let them work in the department to make them more encouraged to be inclusive and to be more getting ready and feeling more empowered with themselves. So the result of that is really amazing, because you see the women, before, some ladies with visual impairment, they come to the university, they don't even want to walk with their cane, because they think of the stigma, and it's a little bit, it's embarrassing for them because they haven't done it in all their life. But when they come and we give them the training, we give them mobility training, and allow them to work, to walk through the campus with their canes. So you see the shift. I see the shift with the student walking like this down her head, and someone escorting her all the time, being dependent on someone else. And then the difference when she's walking with her head high, walking with the cane, and so independent. So the same with the wheelchair users, the same with all the other disabilities. You see the shift in them, and this is really empowering them. This is what makes them more inclusive in activities in the universities and around the whole campus.
And it's so important that you all at Zayed University and all of the universities in the UAE are developing these services, because as we've seen the inclusive legislation go in at the K through 12 level, we know that there's going to be more and more students of determination looking for places at universities and higher education. And so we're really beginning to see that birth to adulthood pipeline here. Now they have a place in K through 12, they have places at universities, and then they will have places in the business world and being able to be entrepreneurs or whatever they want to do, really. And I was just thinking, as you were talking about the majority of women being at your campus, I was thinking most of the women advocates I know, and most of the disability advocates I know are women. Truly are disruptors.
And many other disciplines as well.
Many
other disciplines as well. Women are taking the lead.
When the doors are opened, we will take the world by storm. And I just think that that's so fantastic that those doors are being opened.
When I think about inclusive education and beginning with the little people, when they come in school in kindergarten or preschool, a critical factor is the teacher. So can you share about your new program that really is a program of influence for shifting towards inclusive education?
And I think it's so important that, in education, we often think of inclusive education as something additional or an add-on. And really working with our teachers to understand that there's nothing additional. It's simply good teaching. And understanding that if they design their classroom, design their teaching to be universal, that they can accommodate all students' differences and everybody's going to learn better. And I think that's really our underlying message with our program. So I'm specifically working with our SENCOs, our inclusive leads, and some of our LSAs, or learning support assistants. And they come to us to understand more in depth the history of disability and the progress of the inclusive legislation here in Dubai. But they also learn about how to support specific disabilities and accommodations in schools. But our larger work is actually to be teacher advocates in our schools. And one of the biggest things I always emphasize with my teachers is, how can you support your classroom teachers? What can you do to support the classroom teachers so the students come into the classroom and they're always included? Instead of taking our students out, what can we do to make that classroom accessible for all students? Because we really believe that inclusion means that everybody should have the opportunity to learn together through strong pedagogical practices. And it's so exciting to see us creating teachers here in the UAE who are going to stay in the UAE and teach. We all know that it's a very international city and people come and go. So it's exciting to be producing teachers here who will stay here and teach in the schools and really can have that underground.
We have a similar intervention as well in our university, because we for I think about 2 or 3 years now, we're kind of focusing on faculty trainings, basically, that SAS specialists that do students accessibility services is doing, which is basically training training faculty to work on UDL, that's as a start.
Universal design.
Universal design for learning, and also accessibility features, the technologies behind it, and how can they can use it. And there are 2 things that I would like to share in this regard. In Zayed University, we just finished deploying the Ally software on our Blackboard. And then you could see, while we were doing the trainings for the faculty in the pilot phase, that you could see that it is something that they are being encouraged to do, but it's just you need to set the tone of the reminders, the constant reminders, that it's something that you can do on a daily basis and how you can actually do it. And I measure by looking at the number of volunteers requests that we get from other students, because apparently the more that you raise the awareness of the faculty, the more that they talk about it, the more that they use it, and then we have larger number of volunteers from all, whether there are students with disabilities or not, or the other students as well. So we have a huge number of students that they feel that they want to be engaged in the cause. They want to be engaged with students with determination. They want to be engaged for themselves as well. They want to learn more about accessibility features. We have students all the time joining our training, especially when we provide, because we do provide trainings for external community, schools and so on.
Right.
And we have students all the time that they are interested in accessibility features, using themselves, whether they have disability or not.
Exactly.
I use accessibility features for,
Yeah.
and I don't have a SEN disability,
We
but I
all
do.
that everyday life unknowingly, like the fact that you can send a voice note on something like WhatsApp, that was created as an accessibility feature. Like, it's
Exactly.
something we can all benefit from. And on the topic of universal design, that's a lot of the work that I do with businesses and brands to help them think in a really inclusive way and factor in the whole range of human diversity that exists in the world.
Yeah.
Because, as you mentioned earlier, disability is just a human experience, and sadly, people are very fearful around disability or disabled people if they're not comfortable with it, if they don't know disabled people. But I think what people are more fearful of is the fact that it could happen to them at any time.
Anytime.
I think that's like fragility more than anything. And you know, we've got a stat in the UK that 67% of British people have felt uncomfortable when speaking to a disabled person.
Wow.
Now we're a relatively progressive country in the UK.
Yeah, it's quite a huge percentage.
Yeah, so it just goes to show, despite we've got we've got the Equality Act, we've got lots of disability advocates and campaigners and
And you know what, I just would like to add something about this. A lot of people, they think maybe people are, like they don't want to deal with people with disabilities, but I think the fact is that sometimes they don't know how to.
Yes.
And sometimes they are afraid, because sometimes, like even our students, sometimes, I ask the other students, I said, why you don't talk to them? Say, I don't know what to say, I don't know, maybe they would be offended, they would be upset. So once you raise the awareness,
Yes.
and that's what we do in the university, we do a lot of awareness events about different disabilities and all that. So you put them in the experience. For example, we do the White Cane Day every year, and we
Yes.
blindfold the students, all the students who come to the event, we let them, live the experience of a blind person. And they get so much inspired and they feel great, after that you see a lot of shift and a lot of change in their attitude, and they become more friendly and they can connect together better.
I just think about how the power of, if we could really start this, developing that comfort at that younger age,
Absolutely.
and learning how to interact, that 67% would
Yeah.
shoot downwards in the most wonderful
And
way.
I also want to share that I have a very visible condition, so I have a short stature. And out in the public, people obviously look at me in the UK, and actually around the world, wherever I go, some people can stare at me, they might take videos and pictures of me, which I do not like. And I'm always struck by how curious and innocent children are, and then how they get shouted at by their parents. So quite often, this is what will play out. There'll be a child and they'll say, "Oh, look at that little lady," or "Look at that little mommy. I think it's so cute." And then the parent will like, "Shh, don't say that. That's really bad. That's naughty." So what adults do is instill that fear into children, because they themselves never grew up in an inclusive environment or with inclusive education. So we need to recognise that is happening, and I'll happily take 2 minutes out of my day to have a chat with any child. And I think it's a brilliant learning opportunity for that parent to just talk about diversity in general. And I get it, like some parents have said to me, "Well, I'm afraid it might offend you." I'm like, there's been way worse things that have offended me. This is none,
Right.
Children are innocent.
Yes.
And I think we should all learn
And I
a bit
think,
more from
it's
that.
also good to work with children from a young age, to let them be more inclusive. That's why it's really inclusion is so good, even among, like from kindergarten till the grade 12. And it's so good to bring more and more people with different disabilities to be more included in the classrooms.
What you're really all for alluding to is there are 4 areas that we really have to work on to advance disability rights. The policy is important. We get it on the paper, but like you said, on the paper, we need to put it into action. So that shift is happening here. Then we have the economic system that we work with, and investing in the education, investing in inclusive education and teacher training. And then also we have the education, which we've been talking about, but you four have hit it on the nail that the social cultural values
Yes.
within a community are the greatest barriers that we face
Yes.
in our community, working with individuals with disabilities, and especially women and girls with disabilities. And so the next area that we'd like to focus on is employment. That's the lifelong goal of education, right? Okay, so I am loving this conversation with all of you, and I'm learning a lot, so I hope those who are watching us are also joining in and learning a lot too. We want to shift now and talk about education and employment, how education leads to employment for women with disabilities. And our colleagues from Zayed University, could you share your dream and your vision for having young women with disabilities have gainful employment?
Okay, I'll start with of course, when we started the departments only, like now it's 11 years old. So our graduates really like now we have only like from 5 years ago started graduating,
Okay, yeah.
and the number was much smaller, and now it's growing and growing. But the good thing that what we do, we prepare our students, because sometimes employers, they are afraid to recruit people with disabilities. You know, they think, oh, they can't really fulfill the job requirements. They won't be as like giving more, or like they active in the job place. But what we do, we prepare our students to be, as I said before, more and more independent, to be able also to fulfill the job requirements. And when it comes to like graduating and employers recruit them, we have a specialist from our department that she goes to the workplace, and she prepared the student like with the mobility, with the training, into the work environment. She also goes through the job description and and try to see the graduate, they are familiar with those responsibilities and all that, and we make sure that each of our students, they get the right job. Because sometimes some companies or like organization, what they do, they just want to fill they tick the box, but they have the quota and they want to fulfill that, and that's what I don't allow it. They said me, okay, just send me the names of your graduates and then we will contact them. I said, no, you have to send me the list of your jobs, vacancies, and we will see what job fits with our graduates according to their majors, according to their capabilities, and according to their also passion. Because they have the right to decide where they're going to work and how they're going to and where exactly. So that's what we do, which is really great, and we've been having very good connection with the employers. Excellent. Because we are also supporting them, because they feel sometimes afraid to recruit those students or graduates, but we do a lot of work with them so that we can they can feel and once they have the students or the graduate, they are great, and they feel they're doing their job very, very well, and they are even doing more than and it's known. I don't know whether there is any statistics, but I know from myself, I have polio, and I feel I want to give more to the society. I feel I want to do more for my job, because this is my job, and I am proud. And I'm proud that I have disability and still be able to do this job.
So we do have some data in the UK on that. So just speaking to the point that you mentioned around how employers think disabled people are less productive, or they might be risky hires, or might need lots of time off work. Actually, what the research tells us is the complete opposite. Disabled employees are mostly loyal, they are very productive, and we are safe in the workplace because we are more aware of the health and safety things just because of the way in which we live, and we cost less because we are less likely to jump from employer to employer. So it's really interesting, that narrative. However, what I do think that also contributes to some of that is that we as disabled employees massively feel that we have to overcompensate just to get in work and stay in work.
Yes, exactly.
So although I'm British, my heritage is Indian. My parents are Indian. And so intersectionality really played out for me when I was looking for employment. And no one ever really encouraged me, my family, to go to university, and no one ever really encouraged me to go and work. It was expected, like I had things said to me like, oh, you don't have to work, you can just claim benefits, can't you?
This is the
And I
sad thing.
I was horrified, like people that knew me were saying that to me. I wanted to work and I wanted to contribute to society. And when I finally got round to it at the age of 16, sadly I had to apply for over 100 jobs before removing any mention of my condition. And then I got an interview and then I got a job straight away. So I had to learn a really harsh life lesson at 16 that people are going to judge my ability based on my appearance.
Yes, exactly.
So that all played out.
Adding that you're a woman to that.
You guys doing okay?
Yes, awesome, it's fantastic. Thanks so much, Commissioner. Yep. So thank you so much, because your lived experience and sharing your perspective is really helpful for people to understand, and the contributions that Zayed University is making and contributing to society and helpful gainful employment is fantastic. What I heard you saying, Zayed University is really fulfilling a role that within the United States is through vocational rehab services. And so we have whole organizations that are set up to do that transition for people, individuals with disabilities. And so that's an area that we have at St. Cloud State is a rehabilitation studies program that we would love to partner with you on building capacity, both for individuals with disabilities and individuals without disabilities. We need both. 1 billion people are estimated to have a disability in the world. We need 1 million advocates to help and rally, and more than that. And having a voice at the table is such a critical piece of the work that we do. I want to close by just saying that the SDGs, we focused on SDG 17, partnerships, that's I see totally happening here, and SDG 5, gender equity, obviously empowering women, right? What do you think about all the other SDGs? Are they significant for women and girls, and especially women and girls with disabilities? Go for it.
Oh my God. And coming from a UN background back in the days, basically the SDGs were built to be circular, so they feed into each other. And for me, it's a dear topic when we talk about, so for a woman or a girl, whether with a disability or without disability, when we come to her inclusion into society, into a different discipline, that's already a question mark in there, and already a difficulty. Add to it the disability part, add to it if she's divorced, add to it if she doesn't have education, add to it if she's even if she's from a certain ethnicity, or all the different variables that can look into. So like looking at the women and kind of how how gender kind of intersect with all the different SDGs is key, especially when it comes to education. And in Zayed University, our mission is to qualify and equip, our mission statement actually of the department is to their transition into employment, and working into partnership with the employers and so on to be able to do that, and also to make sure that we are raising awareness on all of this. But then there is the cultural element out of it, there is the policy element out of it that we need to jump in between. Now the SDGs, they kind of provide the enabling environment. Are they fully utilized? Do I feel that everyone takes them seriously? Not necessarily. I don't see that there are enough conversations and discussions around that. I think that we can do more when it comes to that. And actually now that I'm in the middle of designing some community outreach programs, this discussion is really helping me to kind of, you know what, maybe we could focus a little bit on that, and that's helping. But then in terms of that intersection, I think one of the major things that we should be investing more is the research part of it, and actually studying that intersection. I think, and I'm a bit, so every time on 8th of March, I send a message to all the important women in my life. I just do that personally speaking. I just send them.
We'll get a message.
Yes. Thank you for making me who I am, because I was built by, even I don't have a disability, I do have other things in my life that makes me different, but then if I look back, I am the person I am today because of the good women that supported me and mentored me. So I do send them this message, but then, some people say, oh my God, you're like the gender people, and then you're kind of advocating for this, and this is like becoming cliche, and then you're adding all different challenges. But everybody has challenges. We're like, yeah, everybody has challenges, and we need to take them one by one.
But some people also have privilege and don't use that privilege to help others that don't have it.
Yeah.
So that's really important to I think, say to those people that say everyone has challenges. We all do, but they're all different.
Yeah.
They're not the same. We're not all starting from a different, place, are we?
Yeah. And as you talk about women and women who have made an influence in our lives and created us for being the person we are, think about your mom.
Yeah.
And the role that she played. My mom was a huge advocate for individuals with disabilities, and that became part of my DNA and who I am. Regretfully, we lost her, but I want to do a shout out to my mom and say, thank you, Mom. I am grateful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for who she helped me become. What would you say to your mom?
Oh my gosh.
I come from, I always joke about the Raquel women. So I would do a shout out to my grandmother for raising my mom to be so amazing. And I would do a shout out to my mom, who gets very upset because she has 2 daughters living around the world. It is a testament to how she raised us to be strong and independent and to be curious about the people around us, to listen to lived experiences so that we can best experience the world. So thanks, Mom.
There you go, Shani.
Yeah, my mum is equally as amazing. And I think she really instilled in me that life is probably going to be a little bit harder for me, but she never treated me any differently from my siblings, and I really, really, really respect her for doing that. And yeah, I think she just taught me how to handle life and people, because that's a lot of what it takes when you live in a world that isn't designed for you. So yeah, thanks, Mom.
Fatma?
Yeah, for me, I would like to say thank you to my mother for believing in me, having had polio since I was 2.5 years old. So it must have been very difficult for her to have a child with disability during, when the time when the people didn't know what is disability and didn't know how to deal with them.
Yeah.
So having believing in me and that, and also giving me, as you said, also didn't treat me any different than any other of my siblings.
Yeah.
And I was really sent to education, being sent abroad to study abroad. That was a big decision that my parents had to make. It was very difficult. I mean, I traveled to England to study when I was very young. So it was hard for them, but at the same time they believed in me. They thought that I was special, but not special in a negative way, special in a good way, that I can be something and I can make something for myself.
Yeah.
So I would like to really thank them for that.
Okay, great. And you?
I think my mom is the reason why she challenged the whole patriarchy system where I lived in, and she paved the way and had to deal with she protected me from the society to become the person I am. I was allowed to travel. The other females in the family were not allowed to do that. I was allowed to be with whomever I want to be. I say I was allowed because the others were not allowed.
Yeah.
So she's still doing that. Being a single person living in the UAE, working on my own, regardless if I'm in my 30s, is questionable, and she still got my back. So I thank her for that.
She's still got my back.
Yeah.
That's what they give us, right?
Right. And as mothers, we never know if we're going to be gifted with having a child with a disability. So I want to end with saying the power to a mother who has a child with a disability. Your mom's testimony, I'm a mother of a child with a disability, and what a gift in our lives that they are. And so I really want to thank all of you for being here today. This has been more than fun. This has been really insightful, informative, and we will have this on the campus of St. Cloud State University in our Center for International Disability Advocacy and Diplomacy at Minnesota Expo 2027. I hope you can come.